Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Darwin, and in today's video I decided to make a video testing agility versus mastery in terms of stats. Now when playing on a horde character, I have one free action trinket which I have to grab, and then the second trinket is going to be an on-use trinket. But then the question comes around whether I grab the mastery trinket or the agility trinket. So I decided to test both trinkets, and I'm just going to be stacking a little bit extra mastery on one end and a little bit extra agility on the other to see which one makes the most difference. The two specs that I'll be testing this video on will be Subtlety and Assassination, because those two specs, masteries, directly impact how much damage they deal in terms of PvP. For Combat Rogue, it is the percentage, which is the mastery, so the most amount of percent I can really get is 100, but with Assassination, you get poison damage increase with mastery, and with Subtlety, you get finisher damage increase, plus the effectiveness of the Slice and Dice with mastery. So the more mastery you have, technically the more damage you deal, but then it's the question of whether the base stats or the secondary stats deal more damage. For this video, I'm going to be normalizing the numbers by adding in wound poison as the primary poison for both specs to replicate a realistic PvP situation, but for my rotation, I'm basically going to be PvEing my target down just to see just how much damage every single ability hits. And then afterwards, I'll be comparing results and deciding whether mastery or agility benefits the primary playstyle, which are different for both of these specs. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let's get on to some of the testing results. So the first test we're going to do is Assassination and Mastery, which is a lot of fun because Mastery greatly benefits for Assassination in terms of burst and sustain. But the question is, with all the poison damages coming out from Assassination, is that honestly better than just going straight up Agility where all aspects of your damage have a benefit? So we're going to be testing the direct Mastery against direct Agility first, and Mastery comes out first. When taking a look, Venom obviously came out on top with the most amount of damage, but the second still hard-hitting ability was the melee, because there's just this many melees in the attacks. Even with Venom going off and melee being up as much as it is, wound poison still made it for pretty low numbers, even for Assassination. Venomous still dealt a decent amount of damage, but it still didn't come up front of melee, even though it was kept up the whole time. Your Mutilate and Dispatch numbers are kind of low at the end since the damage overall isn't as high, so Master seems to be more bursty, but the sustain of it, I'm not real sure how to compare against Agility. But let's test Agility and then take a look at the numbers afterwards. These are the agility trinkets that I am using. Again, none of those trinkets actually go off, they're just there to stack as much agility as possible, just to see if agility makes a slight adjustment to these numbers. Again, we're looking at micro details and micro numbers, and that's basically what we're going to be going off of when choosing your trinket for your horde rogue or any non-human rogue. Now, the results on the agility side were interesting, because your Venom damage was still the highest hitting ability, but its average was like 8k lower, so then every time you Venom, the damage overall isn't as high. But what was interesting, what actually did increase in damage, is your melee average increased, and with as many melee hits you have, that little bit of average increase actually increases, just an increase in damage. Your wound poison damage increased as well, and venomous wounds damage increased by average and crit, even though it is not as higher than venomous wound or venomous poison on the board. Venomous wound damage still did increase as well, which made it for an interesting discovery. Your Mutilate damage increased, of course, because Mutilate isn't a nature damage, it is agility pure physical damage. In the end, it seems Mastery affects you in Venom greatly and does affect your poison damage and overall like wound poison, but the only effects come out of wound poison, let's say, with Mastery, is you gotta let it tick, and you gotta let it tick on as many targets as possible. But we're looking at PvP, which is mostly a single target damage, not really AoE damage, so Mastery does benefit in Venom, but Agility benefits everything else. In my conclusion, I feel like Agility ends up coming out on top as the better stat, mainly in terms of everything benefits from Agility. Yes, you do have slight damage decrease within Venom, but your sustain is a little stronger, your cleave with venomous wounds is a little bit better, your line up from Venom into double Mutilate is a little bit sharper. Unless if you want to run all bursty spec for BGs or something, I feel like Mastery and Venom is pretty good, but with Agility, your overall damage comes out on top, and I feel like that's the sustain and pressure that Assassination needs, because Assassination already has plenty of burst damage. So my score would go to Agility for this one. When take a look at Subtlety and trying to go for the Mastery build, we also got to remember the playstyle for Subtlety, which I'll talk about in a second. So again, the mastery, to refresh you guys, increases your damage for finishers, which is your rupture and eviscerates, mostly for eviscerates, because that's where a lot of the damage comes from. And the effectiveness of slice and dice is increased by a ton as well, so more auto attacks in there. Now the reason subtlety is different in this case is because it's really a bursty class and it's more about setups rather than sustained damage. So while assassination does have sustained damage a lot like a combat rogue, subtlety in PvP doesn't have good sustained damage. Backstabs don't really hit all that hard, and subtlety's multi-strikes, where you advance the ticks for your poison bleeds, doesn't work as well in PvP because multi-strike is reduced by 50%. So you shouldn't be looking at subtlety in sustained perspective, because for the most part you're not about sustain. You're about setting up slice and dice, setting up rupture, and then setting up your target in a stun, which works best in arenas and BGs, and it's more about opener damage as well when you come out on an opener, to dish out as much damage as possible once you pop up on your target. Again, so remember that when we talk about this video, so we're not looking at overall damages, we're looking at core abilities that subtlety benefits from, and then we're trying to see which one is better in terms of stats, agility or mastery. In the end, we have pretty good results for mastery. I mean, the biggest numbers we're looking for right now are eviscerate, maybe a bit of rupture, and just overall just how little or just how lesser the melee and backstab damages would be. Right, eviscerate damage is pretty high, but then it's a question of just how much does it vary with agility. It seems agility benefits a bit more for backstab, for melee, and a bit for rupture when we take a look at the agility. Subtlety has an innate trait of that you get a bit more agility for every piece of agility that you get. So you get a little 5% extra agility, I think, from your base agility, or from overall agility, and that extra bit of agility might actually make agility a better portion of the stats to go for. The master still is a good one because for most of the times you're setting up and using eviscerates in order to score the kills, and then you really are there for the cheap shots and the CC when it comes to arenas. Agility still might come out on top, but when we take a look at the agility numbers compared to mastery numbers, they're really not that different. Agility gets a slight increase for the melee, slight increase and a decrease for the visses. It seemed like with mastery the crits were higher for a vis and the crits were lesser with agility. Rupture damage again was only slightly better, and backstab damage was only slightly better. So for a class that's really all about the eviscerates when it comes to actual damage, it's really hard to decide whether mastery or agility is the best portion for this, what is the best stat for the most amount of damage. Because you're not really PvEing a subtlety rogue, you're not really using backstabs to get the rupture ticks to proc faster, but I guess it can help a little bit. The melee damage being a bit more sustained can be helpful, but that's not where really the burst comes from. The burst comes from his eviscerates, which is why this decision is really hard for me to make. I guess I would go, in the end, it would be eviscerate versus eviscerate, mastery versus agility, and agility has a better average, so I guess that's the one I would go for. If on average you can hit for, the only difference in spread is 4k damage, if you can hit for 4k more, maybe that 4k might be enough to help you score the kill. Maybe you'll end up trading the target down with a bit of melee hits here and there. So I guess agility would be my go-to choice. They're both kind of terrible stats in terms of, I mean, they're both good stats, but the results out of them are terrible because there's not a big of a spread in terms of which one is more inherently better. So I would just say agility again for subtlety, but it's a real close call. This is the kind of video I will always want to make, just to figure out some of the stat differences between one class and the other, and just to see why agility is better. I mean, for the longest time I've seen people go agility over mastery, playing subtlety or assassination, and whenever playing non-human characters, and I just want to figure out for myself what's the reason behind it. The number spread is only slightly different for subtlety. It is not that different, but I guess with all the melee hits you're hitting, it does tend to stack up over a period of time. With assassination, however, mastery ended up benefiting highly for Envenom, but that's really about it. And unless you are all about the bursts, unless you have the most luckiest crit procs all the time, then bursting every time with Envenom isn't going to be an option all the time. You also do have sustained damage that you can watch out for, which is the reason why I decided for assassination that agility is a little bit more, it's just slightly better. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. This was a lot of fun to make, and just a lot, I thought it was a great discovery for myself, just to figure this thing out for myself, and just to learn a bit more about the game and about the class that I play. Hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully this does offer you guys some insight. Go for that agility rather than mastery if you do have an option to do so. Otherwise, my name is Darwin. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.